Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar titled The Anaerobic Microverse. We're now live in YouTube as well, for those of you who are connected via Zoom. We're going to wait another couple of minutes because I see there's still people connecting. So let's leave 1 minute for whoever's remaining to connect, and then we can begin. I think we can start in introduction while people finish connecting. So again, good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you all for taking a moment of your, what I'm sure are very busy schedules to be here. We've got 2 hours ahead of us, filled with some really interesting talks by members of the Biogas project, which we will introduce in a little bit. And I think what's most important is that we'll have some very nice and very interesting discussions after each of these talks. So just to give you a context of the Biogas project and the goal of this webinar, I must say that the production of green energy is a geostrategic but also an environmental need. We need to reduce the use of fossil fuels to prevent severe climate change impacts, but we also need to find alternative energy sources to reduce the dependency of Europe on external sources, by this increasing Europe's security when it comes to energy. So in this context, biogas is a renewable energy source that's proven to be very promising in the last few years. And we believe that biogas is going to be a key energy source to meet, on one hand, the EU's 2030 greenhouse gas reduction target, but also to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. Biogas, for those of you who are not so familiar with the term, is a mixture of methane, CO2, and other gases that can be produced using anaerobic digestion. Anaerobic digestion itself is a process that uses organic waste. So in this sense, the production of biogas via anaerobic digestion not only contributes to having a greener energy system, but also very, very useful for sustainable waste management. The production of biogas through anaerobic digestion is a complex process in which the microbiome in the anaerobic digesters plays a key role in producing these gases and then other side products such as volatile fatty acids and other compounds that we'll see throughout today's sessions. Until recently, the microbiome within anaerobic digesters was considered to be a black box because it wasn't very clear what interactions were happening between the components and how these were contributing to generate biogas. And this is what we wanted to clarify in the Biogas project. So our main goal was to, or is to, because the project hasn't finished yet, to characterize the microbiome of anaerobic digestion and see how we can manipulate this microbiome. Am I silenced?
No, Kristie.
Oh, okay. I got a sign saying that I had been silenced. So yeah, our goal is to see how we can manipulate this microbiome in order to improve the robustness of the anaerobic digestion process, the speed, the efficiency, and also the quality of the biogas produced. Biogas, as we'll see in the first talk, is a 4-year project funded by the European Commission, in which participants, both from academia and companies all over Europe, have been participating, and that will finish next May. So we're in the final phases of the project, and we have some really interesting results to share with everyone. So before passing the floor to the first speaker, I just want to take a couple of minutes to explain how the dynamics of the session are going to be. So as you know, we have 4 speakers that are going to present today. Each speaker will have 15 minutes to present their talk. During that time, you are very welcome to ask any questions that you would like in the chat. And then after the talk, we will have a Q&A session with each of the speakers in which we will recap all the questions that have been introduced in the chat. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to ask them. Also, after each Q&A, we will have a poll session. So this is really important for us within the project. Now that we're coming to the end, we really need feedback from stakeholders and feedback from all of you who are here today to see if we're missing anything in the roadmap that we have created, if there's any stakeholders that you think are relevant and should be mentioned, if we're really being clear on what we have developed within the project. So we really are really interested in having your feedback here. And that's why we've created a live poll. If you're connected via Zoom, you will have the link to the poll in the chat, and I'm also going to be sharing it on the screen. And if you're on YouTube, you will have a QR code that you can capture now and go to the poll. The poll has been created on a Google Form document, so you'll be able to access it at any time during the session today, although we will be stopping at the end of each talk to do some specific questions associated to that talk. Nevertheless, if you feel like you have to go or you want to finish the poll before we have finished the session, feel free to answer all of the questions and send us your replies. And as I said, this is going to really help us towards the end of the project to get some conclusions on the work that we performed. So just before giving the floor to the first speaker, I'm going to share my screen, and I would like to ask you all to access the poll and answer the first few questions that I think you're seeing right now on the screen, which are just some general information to let us know where you're coming from, what your relationship is with the biogas sector, your level of education, and then also what are your main interests. So for this, I'm going to time 3 minutes so that you can connect to the poll and start answering the questions. If you have any issues, please let me know. I'll be here throughout these 3 minutes, and also my colleagues are here helping me manage the poll. So we have 2 minutes left.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I am technical of the department. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Sarah.
I had some problems with my microphone. I'm Sarah from the technical department of Bioenergy.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for being here. So 1 minute left. For those of you who have just got connected, please scan the QR code or insert the link to access the poll. And we're going to continue in 40 seconds with the talks. Okay, so the time's up. So without further ado, I would like to pass the floor to my colleague Adriel Latorre. He is going to present the speakers today, and he's going to be the person moderating the discussion, the Q&A and the poll sessions after each talk. Thank you again for being here, and I hope you enjoy all the talks ahead of us. Go ahead, Adriel.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Kristie, for the presentation. As Kristie was saying, I'm the head of the genomics department at Darwin Bioprospecting, which is a member of the Micro for Biogas Consortium, and I will be the moderator of this session today. So we are heading towards the talk sections, and in the context of Micro for Biogas project, as Kristie was saying, we have developed a roadmap, which is a book that provides an overview of the biogas landscape in Europe. The first talk will introduce the Micro for Biogas project and will focus on this roadmap. For this purpose, we have Professor Christian Abendroth, the person who coordinated all the effort in preparing the roadmap within the project. He is professor in circular economy at the Brandenburg University of Technology, Cottbus, and he did his PhD in the University of Valencia, and also he did a postdoc at the Institute for Waste and Circular Economy located at the Technical University of Dresden. So he's a big expert on the field. I would like to give him the word, and I would like to invite him to start presenting and introducing himself for the first talk of the session.
Hey, thank you very much for the introduction, Adriel. I will share now my screen.
It's in percentage mode, Christian.
Okay, so it's fine.
No, you have to change the mode, sorry. I mean, now it's fine.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and then I would like to introduce you into the Micro for Biogas roadmap. I will also say a few words on Micro for Biogas itself. And I'm really not digging deep into the different topics. So the purpose is to give you a content overview. In the last slides, I will also talk a little bit about my own chapter that I contributed to the Micro for Biogas roadmap. But then after me, there will be more talks where people go really deep into the different topics. Well, I will start with the picture that you see here, which is actually one of the graphical abstracts from the roadmap already. And it shows an anaerobic digester. And in this scheme, it's quite simplified. So you have basically a vessel, and we can fill this vessel with sludge from agriculture or sludge from wastewater treatment. And this sludge typically contains a lot of microbes. It could be different kinds of bacteria, it could be different kinds of archaea, and they are collectively turning organic substrates that we're feeding them into biogas. And this contains methane and carbon dioxide, as Kristie explained earlier, which we can use for generation of electricity and heat. In the end, we still have some organic residues which can't be degraded further, and they contain a lot of minerals. So therefore, the fertilizer is still quite interesting for the agriculture as a fertilizer, and some people are also interested in working with the fibers, for example, to create insulation material. So inside, we have a quite complex microbiome, which we often refer to as a black box. And although there are already decades of research, we still say it's a black box. And the reason is that the technology itself is already quite diverse. So we have several technical setups like single-stage digesters, multi-stage digesters, multi-phase digesters, or even multi-stage, multi-phase digesters. And all these setups can receive different substrates, which makes it even more complex. And in the end, it results in a really complex microbiome, which is different for each biogas plant. And therefore, it's a great playground for researchers in microbiomes, but it's also an important question for the industry. And we ask the questions how to make them faster, how to make the microbiome more robust, and how to be more efficient. So we started these questions with building up a consortium with 14 partners from 6 countries. And in total, we are receiving 5.7 million euros for a duration of 4 years to work on these questions. All this has been presented by Kristie as well before. And I want to highlight the countries which are involved here. So we have partners from Spain, from Greece, from Germany, from Belgium, from the Netherlands, and also from Finland. And we have a certain focus on these countries when it comes to the economic situation in the roadmap. But apart from this, we are really focused on the microbiome. And we want to find ways to change the microbiome, which is quite difficult if you take into account that we have roughly 300 microbial key groups which are involved here. So it's a quite competing environment. And if we perform bioaugmentation, this means we take a certain microbe of interest, we bring it into the microbiome, and we hope that it changes something, then this is challenging because it could be that it's just not able to compete to all the other microbes. So to find a microbe which is able to do this, it's a big experimental effort. And this becomes even more difficult if you take into account how diverse the biogas plants are. So it's not that we have always the same microbiome, but depending on which biogas plant we are working with, we have a different microbiome. And in this regard, I would like to highlight the article from Otto et al. So we published this just this year, and we managed to build up one of the biggest data sets on taxonomy in anaerobic digestion. So we sampled 80 different full-scale anaerobic digester-related systems. And we not only collected taxonomic data, but also chemical data and operational data. And you can now read the full article at Biotechnology for Biofuels and Bioproducts. Here's also the Dewey number shown where you can access this article. So alongside this project, we were writing now this comprehensive roadmap, which contains 9 chapters in total. And the big strength of this roadmap is that we have several partners from different backgrounds that are collaborating here. So this allows us to observe anaerobic digestion from a really wide angle. And we have, for example, the AEW Energy, a company that builds biogas plants, and they wrote 2 very long chapters on the technical background. We also have the University of Dresden and the University of Valencia, and they contributed a chapter on economy, ecology, stakeholders, and policies. We have a municipality that also integrates into the project, Aras de los Olmos. It's a small town there, and they want to get rid of the national energy grid. They want to produce their own energy, and they want to do this based on renewable resources, and they want to combine all of them based on sector coupling. And we have a talk today by Aras de los Olmos where they are going to discuss this in more detail. We also have 2 chapters by the company Bioclear and the University of Cottbus, which are then really focused on the microbiology behind all of this, as well as on the microbiomes. And we have a prospect chapter where people try to include their hopes, ideas, and opinions. It was like a survey where we asked several questions and people answered them. And then we integrated all of this into an holistic text. I would like to give you a short idea of the process, what it actually took to write this roadmap. And we started from the very beginning of the project, and in the first 2 months, we created a table of content where we all agreed on a structure that we want to follow throughout the Micro for Biogas project. And 1 month later, we already had a first draft online for the public where people could see what we plan to achieve. And then after the first year, we already had the main contents together. But from there, it was still a lot of work. And it took us 2 months to assemble all of it into one complete document. And there we screened for errors, for missing contents, for problems in formatting. So we had to work on this again. And then it took another year until all chapters were really completed. And at this point, we started an internal review. This means every partner was reading a chapter that he was not writing himself. He was commenting on it. And then this again was corrected until we had the final roadmap ready. And this version was then presented to our partner Science Seed. And they spent another year to work on the layout, and they have done an incredible job. Here you see the book cover, which already looks quite promising. And the final version is now available. Here I'm fading in the link, how you can access the roadmap. You can download it to read it. And well, Science Seed was not only making a nice job with the book cover, they worked on it also from the interior. And they improved the font, and they were changing in certain situations from one column style to a 2-column style. They included nice pictures. They took care of nice colors, that all the colors fit with each other. And they also worked through all the figures. So they basically redraw every figure in order to make sure that it appears in an holistic style where all colors fit with each other. And I would like to show you some of them. And I would like to show you the graphical abstracts, because after all the figures were redrawn, they also started to create, together with the respective authors, graphical abstracts. And again, I'm not going to go much into detail here. I just want to show them to you that you get an impression of what we have achieved here. And then the later talkers will go more into the details of this. So here, for example, is a graphical abstract for the economic situation and ecological aspects that we have in this industrial sector. Here we have a graphical abstract for the policy in the European Union in regard to anaerobic digestion. We have an abstract for the manipulability of anaerobic microbiomes. Here's an abstract for the municipality of Aras Olmos. And there are more, so we have 9 chapters. So in total, we have actually 9 graphical abstracts. So at this point, I would like to go a little bit into my own contribution on the manipulability of microbiomes. And it started actually with an outreach talk at a conference in Rostock, the Biomass Forum. In Germany, it's quite famous. It takes place every year. And we went there, so I prepared a conference talk together with Pascal Otto and Kristie from the University of Dresden. They helped me to assemble all the information. And then I went there to make the talk, to present it to a broader audience. And there are some interesting topics which are also published at the conference book. But the problem is it's in German. And since we are in a European project, I wanted to make it available to a larger audience, and I wanted to make it accessible also in English. So I translated everything into English. And here you see some interesting topics that are included here. So we talk about ATP generation, anaerobic fungi, nanobacteria, bacteriophages, unicellular eukaryotes, methanostacina, and electroactive microbes. I guess you will hear about some of them in more detail in the talk from Bioclear later on. And after translating this into English, I was integrating it with another topic from my postdoc thesis. So in the middle of the project, I was finishing my postdoc thesis. It was not done in the frame of Micro for Biogas, but it contained information which are quite interesting for Micro for Biogas. And it was a cumulative thesis, but the discussion remained unpublished. So I thought that's a good opportunity to make the discussion also available to a broader audience. So I integrated this discussion part with this conference article that we presented in Rostock. And this brought some more topics like 2-stage digestion, nitrogen inhibition and nitrogen removal, or the dynamic interplay of microbes. So all of this was then merged as one chapter on the manipulability of anaerobic microbiomes. And with this, I'm already coming to an end. This is my last slide. I just want to highlight the very last chapter, the prospects chapter, which is actually divided in 3 sections on taxonomy, biochar, and opinions. The taxonomy part was provided by Darwin Bioprospecting Excellence. The biochar part was provided from Lucrat, which is a stakeholder and advisor from our advisory board. And then the opinions, I mentioned in the beginning that we made like an internal survey where every partner was able to contribute some opinions that he has on the topic. And we were asking specific questions. And I'm just showing you one of these questions or tasks. Please describe your main goal in microbiogas. And here are some bullet points or some keywords that I just took from the text we created. So of course it's a comprehensive text, and this just gives you an idea of the topics that were discussed there. But we have many more questions where people go into their respective opinions. So with this, I'm basically done. Thank you very much for your attention. And if you have questions, then I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Christian, for your nice presentation about the roadmap. As Christian was saying, you can use the chat to ask questions, and I will let Christian know and we can start the discussion. So I will be in charge of asking the question, of reading your questions, but of course you can use both chats, the Zoom chat and also the YouTube chat, and the team will let me know and I will ask the question to Christian. So I want to start with the discussion, Christian, already. Where is the roadmap? Where I can download the roadmap? Is it available for everyone?
It's available for everyone, and it's on our Microbiome homepage. So earlier in the slides, I also showed the link. If you were not fast enough to...
Now you're muted, Christian, I think. Now.
I don't know why I was muted. Yeah, so the link is available, and if you was not able to write it down, you can just go online, search for Biogas in Google, and then you already find the homepage, and there you also find the roadmap, the download.
Yeah, it's already in the chat, I think, at least in the Zoom chat that I can see, so you can just click on it and go and download the roadmap. So we have the first question already, Christian. Who should read the Microbiome roadmap? It's for a general public, it's very specific to some stakeholders of the biogas sector.
Yeah, so basically everyone should read it. And the reason behind this is that we had a quite diverse set of partners that were involving in this. So we had not only industrial partners, we also had academic partners, we had partners from municipalities, we have partners that are engaged in economics and ecology. So there's a wide set of areas that we are covering. So I would say it's not specific for one stakeholder, but all stakeholders from the biogas industry might be interested in the roadmap. And I think it's written in a manner that also the public could read it. And there are some chapters which are also a bit general, like the last chapter, the prospects chapter, where people can get an idea what biogas is actually about and in which direction might it go and how could it help us to evolve our bioeconomy. So basically for everyone.
Okay, thank you, Christian, for your response. And I'm sorry if I don't tell the names of the people who are asking the questions because I can see them. So I will just ask the question and the speakers will try to answer them for you. So we have another question. As we understand from your talk, this is a very complete roadmap. More or less, you say what is covered on the roadmap. How long it is the roadmap itself, and do you see any weaknesses in it? I mean, any topic that it's not covered or something?
Yeah, so it's a quite comprehensive document. We have 360 pages in total. And a big weakness is that we can't cover everything. So if you check anaerobic digestion in public databases, for example, in PubMed, you get like 20,000 entries. So the amount of publications is huge, and it's not possible to cover everything. We can give an outline, we can try to summarize as good as possible, but even for us as human beings, it's not possible to read 20,000 articles. So the information is just huge. And then there's another weakness, but maybe we are converting it into a strength. So the Micro for Biogas project is on bioaugmentation. And actually, we talk very little about bioaugmentation in the roadmap itself. We talk about it. We have these chapters on microbiology and microbiome manipulation, but we have not a chapter which is dedicated to bioaugmentation itself. And the reason is that we are still working on this. We are writing a scientific review article where we try to give a really deep insight into bioaugmentation, and we hope that we can make this accessible still in the frame of the Micro for Biogas project.
So maybe when the Microbiome project is finished, we can add an addendum to the document and include the main conclusions of the project, which are very, very interesting, as you will see in the next talks. So Christian, I will like to continue with the poll, but keep connected, because maybe if we are keep receiving some questions, I will use this time also to just let you know the questions. So I will be sharing my screen now for the poll. What someone told us that the QR was not working properly. We have already, I think, that solved this. But if you can scan the link, you can write the link down on your on the internet. Then if you are connected to the chat on YouTube, there is the link in the description, and in Zoom we are constantly putting this link in the chat so you can join the poll and ask the questions. As Kristie told in the presentation, if you were not there, if you were not connected, we after each talk we are doing a poll. So in this case, you have to answer right now the questions mark or number with a 1. But if you didn't answer the other questions, please feel free to answer them. And if you have to go, if you have to disconnect from the meeting, yes, please answer all the questions that you can and send the poll, because your opinion is very important to us. So we will let you around 4 minutes for these questions, to answering these questions in the poll. And in the meantime, we can continue with the discussion with Christian, because we have another question. Christian, you told us that there are many publications, thousands of publications on biogas, but then you and Kristie say that biogas is kind of a black box process. Why do you think it's still called a black box process, despite the evidence and the studies around this anaerobic digestion process?
Yeah, so I mean, we learned a lot about the microbiome, and so I think it's a topic where people can definitely argue whether it's still a black box or not. But there is a lot of stuff that we still discover. So yearly there are new articles that find new microbes that are given in the microbiome. And in fact, in microbiogas, we found a really important one, the ones that we named Darwini bacterialis, and they are actually in every biogas plant. So they seem to be quite important, and people were just not discovering or describing them properly before. So it seems there is still work to do to fully resolve the microbes that are involved in this. And then it's also questionable how they interact with each other and how we can maintain a certain functionality. So there is the interest that we change the functionality of the microbiome in order to produce hydrogen, for example, or to produce volatile fatty acids. And there's a wide range of volatile fatty acids that might be produced, and it's difficult to get the parameters exactly in such a configuration that we produce mainly the volatile fatty acids that we like. Although there are already some selection pressures published that you could use, it's still a challenge, I would say. So there's just a lot of stuff that we still have to research, although we already know a lot about it.
Okay, Christian, thank you for your answer. We will have 1 more minute because we are running out of time from this talk and we have to move to the next talk. So yes, if you have just connected or you haven't answered to the poll, please take a minute to answer to this poll. You can access through the QR code and through the links that are in the chat and in the description in YouTube. So please take this 1 minute to go to the poll and answer this question, because as Kristie told you in the beginning, and if you were not connected, we are collecting all this data only for statistical purposes, but it's very important to us to know the perception of the different stakeholders that are connected here in the meeting about a roadmap like this, like the one that we've created during the Biogas project. So as I said, and I will repeat it again and again, if you have to leave the meeting, please send the answers, send the poll, finish the poll, so we can count on your opinion. So I will stop sharing right now. Thank you very much, Christian, for your talk and for this very interesting discussion.
Thank you.
So we're moving right now to the second talk. And now Pascal Otto will talk about the stakeholders in the anaerobic digestion and the EU policies associated to this technology. Pascal is a doctoral research student at the Technical University of Dresden, and he is a big expert on the field of biogas technology. He is not only an expert in the microbiological and engineering part of the process, but he's been also doing a huge investigation on the European policies around biogas. So please, Pascal, feel free to share your screen. You're already sharing, and we'll see it and start your presentation.
Yes, hello, welcome everybody. Thank you for the introduction. As you already mentioned, I will focus in my presentation on the stakeholders in anaerobic digestion and the EU policies. And these are basically 2 chapters in the roadmap. So I will start with the stakeholders in anaerobic digestion, and there I will give a short overview of the important stakeholders and also show their relations. And therefore, ScienceSeed created a really nice figure to show what stakeholders are important. So as you see here, we have a lot of stakeholders, and they're really diverse and complex. And in the center of everything, there are the biogas producers. And they have relationships with all the other stakeholders. For example, you have the electricity and gas grid owners. They provide a specific feed-in tariff, and the biogas producers give the electricity and heat. Then you have the farmers that provide the substrates and get in advance the fertilizers. Sometimes the farmers and the biogas producers are the same. Then you have the laboratories and research and development, and they send samples, evaluate the quality and also the performance of the anaerobic digestion. Then we have the biogas plant planners, which are in client order experience relationship with the biogas producers. And then we have also the authorities that give like environmental directives to regulate the biogas plants. And we have also the national governments that give promotions. And all over, we have the European Union, which gives also promotions and support and also guidelines. And in advance, they try to fulfill their renewable energy rate, for example. And as you see here, there are many parties involved in this value chain. And one stakeholder is also emerging, which is the waste management companies, because food waste and also other organic waste are becoming more interesting for anaerobic digestion. And what we also see here is that the European Union has a big role in all of this. So it coordinates and also supports the technology. And this brings us to the second chapter, the European Union Police. And this is a quite large chapter. And I want to give you just a brief overview of the topics that we are talking in. And first, I will define the main instruments of the European Union, so what they are used to implement their goals. Then I will talk about the main policies that have been implemented and have a big impact on the biogas industry. Then we will talk about some economic data. And finally, we have some scientific data that we have collected in the frame of the project. So I will start with the definitions. So the European Union has different tools to implement their goals. The first one is in regulation, and regulation defines a goal with a concrete mean. And this is setting, and it must not be translated into a national law. So yes. Then we have the EU directives, which sets a target that must be achieved, but without any specification. For example, that we want to have 100% of renewable energy, but how you get this renewable energy with biogas, with solar power, is not set. So this is an example for European directives. Then there are also action plans. These action plans address general issues, for example, environmental issues, also energy transition. And this is more like a guidance document, and it's not binding. And further, like political instruments that we have can be decided by EU and also United Nations. And for this, we listed in the roadmap the most important political instruments. So these are all the instruments we talked about in the roadmap. Here I highlighted the tools that are the most important ones. So we have, for example, RED 1 and RED 2. And this is basically the expansion of renewable energies in the European Union. This is a really important funding instrument. Then there's the Paris Agreement, which was ratified and also designed by the United Nations. And this sets the 1.5-degree goal and also gives some information about climate resilience and also climate financing. Then there is the main or the most important tool in the European Union, which is the European Green Deal. And this is a document for the regulation of a sustainable finance market, especially to decrease the CO2 output. Then there is the Fit for 55 package. This is part of the Green Deal, and it sets the goal that 55% less CO2 should be emitted in 2030. And last but not least, we have the Repower EU, and this one's the most recent one, and it should make the European Union independent from the Russian fuel in 2030. So you see there are many political instruments. We try to cover them all in the roadmap, and we went into detail how they affect the biogas industry and how they're related to the biogas industry. What we also did there is we evaluated some economic data. On the left side, you see the energy production per country in the European Union. There we see that Germany has like the highest energy production and is followed by the UK and then by Italy. But other countries have also like a growing biogas industry and a big potential for growth, especially because waste treatment and also the treatment of agricultural waste is becoming a big point, and also the energy production. And also what we see on the right figure is that the market for biomethane is particularly interesting. So over the years, the energy production in biomethane is increasing, while the production of biogas is like stagnating. And biomethane has a big advantage. It can be fed directly into its existing gas grid, and it can be also used for flexibilizing the energy production. And this is a major advantage compared to wind energy and solar energy, because you can have this energy anytime, not just when the sun is shining. So this is pretty interesting and really good data that we evaluated also in the roadmap. Then I will move on to the scientific data that we generated in frame of the project and the roadmap. What you see here is a literature review. We used a database of 461 articles, and we generated these articles by using Web of Science. And for this, we used the search terms biogas, anaerobic digestion, policy, and EU or European Union. And with this search terms, we had 461 articles. In this figure, these articles were listed according to the year of publication. And we can see here that the agreements and political decisions have a major influence on the scientific discourse. For example, you see after the Waste Framework Directive and the Renewable Energy Directive 1 that the publications increased drastically. And we see similar effects after the Paris Agreement, also the Green Deal. And at the moment, we are at a point where annually a lot of publications are published, but it's more like stagnating. But the topic is still important in the scientific discourse. What we also did with this big data set, we did a keyword analysis with all the publications. Therefore, we used the SALSA method. And for that, we filtered all the papers, we sorted them, we gave them keywords. And on this figure here, you see the most important keywords that are reflected in these publications. So you see that the biogas potential and biomass strategy is really important in these publications. It's also interesting that we see that renewable energies, fertilizer, biofuels, and also food waste have a really big impact on these publications, and that there is really a broad range of topics that are addressed in the frame of this literature review. And maybe to close my presentation, all these topics are reflected also in the roadmap. We created an outline with these main topics and created like a document where the content of all these papers are summarized. And yes, these are also to find in the roadmap. And that's it from my side. Now it's time for questions, I guess.
Yes, indeed. Pascal, thank you very much for your nice presentation. It is very interesting. We are already receiving the first question, and as Pascal was saying, I just want to add that more that as something, I would just to invite you to go to the roadmap and read this specific section because it's very interesting, as well as all the other sections too. So it's a very long document. You have plenty time for reading it whenever you want, but it's very, very interesting, I think. So Pascal, the first question it's mine. Would you say it is a good timing nowadays to invest in biogas or biomethane in Europe or in the rest of the world, if you have the data?
I think in Europe, it's a good time to invest in biogas industry because a lot of countries struggle with dealing with the organic waste, and they're paying even some amounts to get this waste treated. And the biogas plants offer a really good opportunity to treat this waste and also generate energy.
Okay, so if you have questions, you can put them in the chat, in the YouTube or in the Zoom chat, and the team will let me know, and I will ask them to Pascal. We have now one question, and it is this one is very interesting. Do you think the legal and the regulatory framework in the EU is solid enough, or should it be improved?
So the legal framework in the European Union, I think it depends also on the countries and what they do with the legal framework. From the European Union, it's you have some environmental permits and stuff like that, but the legal framework is pretty blur, and it needs to be transposed into national law. So it's more the part of the countries to implement this well. And as we see with Germany, for example, some countries are doing this pretty well. France is also doing a lot with biomethane plants and stuff like this. So it's more a thing of the countries. I think the European Union sets a really good foundation, and what the countries do with this is their point.
Okay, so one of the questions is specifically about Germany. Speaking of that, so the question is, why do you think Germany is one of the highest producers of biogas? It is related to this better, let's say, implementation of the regulatory framework. Are there any other reasons?
Yes, so with RED 1 in 2007 or 8, Germany said, okay, we set on bioenergy and we invest. We had also the Erneuerbare Energiegesetz, the EEG, which got a big funding for biogas plants. So they got a lot of money for the electricity they were producing. And I think this factors, and also like big agricultural companies lead to a big biogas network in Germany.
Okay, so Pascal, I will start sharing my screen now for inviting people to answer the poll. But yes, keep connected so we can continue with the Q&A because we have all the questions to answer. So I will share my screen right now. As I've been saying before, you have this poll. You can scan the QR code. You have the link in here in the screen too, and if not, you can find the link to the poll in the chat and in the YouTube description. So now it will be interesting for us if you can answer to these questions, the questions number with A2 that are related to Pascal talk, and briefly they ask you, will you add any additional stakeholders of relevance for the biogas industry? Which stakeholder is more important for the biogas plant operator? This was one of the questions, Pascal. So yes, maybe we can answer at the end, so everyone can give their opinion, and then you can give yours. Do you think all the important political instruments for the biogas industry in the European Union are displayed? And the last one is, which is the most important political instrument for the biogas industry in the European Union? Yes, we will have 2-3 minutes to answer this question. And as I've been repeating, if you have to leave the meeting, please send the form, send the poll, so we can have your opinions. So Pascal, we have another question, and it is this one: could a small anaerobic digestion plant on a farm produce enough energy to fuel the farm's own activity, or would we need an additional energy source?
So this depends on the substrate input, so how much organic waste and stuff you can put in the biogas plant. Usually in Germany, you see a lot of farms that have not just one renewable energy source, maybe 2 or 3, that they have their biogas plant, maybe some solar panels, and also a small wind wheel. So it's always better to set on 2, but I think it would be enough if you have enough substrate.
Okay, this is very interesting, and it's related to the last talk, to the Mutaz talk from Aras de los Olmos. So I want to invite you to stay to all the during all the meeting, because it's very related to what they are doing in Aras de los Olmos and what Mutaz will talk about in a few minutes. So maybe we can head to the last question, which is already here in the poll, and it's which stakeholder is the most important for the biogas fund operator? What do you think, Pascal?
So this is difficult because on the one hand, you need substrate. So if you're the farmer, you're also the biogas producer. So this is the main point. But then I think the European Union is also pretty important to support the technology, to give some funding. So I think there's 2, and also the biogas planners and constructors are pretty important. The other ones are more for the maintenance, I would say.
Okay, so thank you very much, Pascal, for the presentation, for your nice opinions about this very interesting topic. It's very interesting not only to focus on the scientific part, but also in these economic and legal and regulatory aspects. So thank you very much. And we are moving just to the third talk. So in this talk, Svenja will give us some insight on the role of microorganisms in the anaerobic digestion process. Svenja is a bioprocess engineer at Bioclear, an innovation and consultancy company in the field of soil, water, and climate, located in the Netherlands. Svenja obtained a bachelor's degree in biotechnology and a master's degree in applied life science, specializing in sustainable process development and biotechnology. And within Bioclear, Svenja mainly works for projects within the field of bioenergy, including both commercial projects and research projects like Biogas. So I would like to invite Svenja, who is already sharing her screen, to go and do her talk.
Great, yes. Thanks a lot, Adria, for the introduction. And as you already said, today I'm going to talk a little bit more about the microorganisms which are involved in anaerobic digestion. So let's get started. So as a little introduction, the ones in the anaerobic digestion producing the methane are actually microorganisms. So they're actually the true workhorses in this process. And it's not only a really simple process, it's actually a multi-step degradation process in which a lot of different organisms are involved. So meaning not only bacteria, but also archaea and eukaryotes. And to give you a little bit of an idea of the size and the amounts of microorganisms, you can roughly say that 1 gram of digestate contains as many microorganisms as there are humans inhabiting planet Earth. So that is quite a lot. Here, as a first introduction, I think here's quite a nice picture, which is also in part of the roadmap. So as I already said, anaerobic digestion is a multi-process process, and which consists of 4 different steps. The first 3 steps here, I will explain them in a little bit more detail later on. They are done by bacteria in the anaerobic digester. In the last step, the methane is actually produced, and this step is done by archaea. We not only have bacteria and archaea in the anaerobic digester, but also eukaryotes. They are still poorly researched, so we do not know a lot about them yet. And to maintain a good biogas production, it's really important that the bacteria and archaea, or all the microorganisms, that they are balanced out. So, and that every reaction is happening, because otherwise the whole process would not work. So they are all dependent on each other. So now I want to just go into a little bit more details on how the methane is actually produced. So I want to go through every of these 4 steps. And I want to start with the hydrolysis. In this step, polymeric substrates are broken down to monomers by extracellular enzymes, and these enzymes are produced by hydrolytic bacteria. Examples of these enzymes are like amylases, cellulases, and lipases, for example. And most bacteria who produce these enzymes belong to the phyla Bacteroidetes or Bacillota. This step can often be the limiting step within anaerobic digestion, especially if an anaerobic digester is running on complex plant materials. So yeah, like agriculture residues, but also manure and green wastes. So that means that often the speed of the hydrolysis determines the biogas production rate and the final biogas yield. So the next step is the acidogenesis. In this step, bacteria use the products which were produced by the hydrolytic bacteria as electron acceptors, and they use them to produce products such as fatty acids, alcohol, CO2, and hydrogen. From these products, only acetate, formate, hydrogen, and CO2, they can already directly be used for the methane production. All the other ones, they still need to be broken down in a further step. And this is often the fastest step of anaerobic digestion. And most of the bacteria which are doing this step, they belong to the phylum Bacillota. And to just give you like a few examples of groups where these bacteria also belong to are the Clostridium, Bacillus, and Bacteroides, but there are much more. After the acetogenic genesis, we have the acetogenesis. Again, then these bacteria from in this step use the products from the former group to produce either acetate, CO2, and hydrogen. It's a highly diverse group with approximately around 100 species, and they can be classified in around 21 different genera. I want to point out 2 special groups within this step, which are the homoacetogenic bacteria. What they can do is that they produce acetate out of hydrogen and CO2. And then on the other hand, we have the syntrophic acetate oxidizing bacteria, or SAOBs. They can convert acetate into CO2 and hydrogen. So it's the other way around. And these 2 pathways, they bring extra stability to the whole process, because if, which I will explain in the next slide, if one of the last reaction is inhibited, they can form as an alternative. Okay, so now the methanogenesis, which is actually the last step. So this is done by archaea, one of the oldest life forms on Earth, actually. As archaea producing methane, they are also called methanogens or methanogenic archaea. This step can also be rate limiting within anaerobic digestion, especially if easy substrates are used, like sugars, glycerol, or just easy degradable substrates. So when you're thinking about optimizing the anaerobic digestion process, this is often a step of high interest. To produce methane, there are actually 3 different pathways. 2 of them are displayed also here on the figure. So the first one is the acetoclastic pathway. In this pathway, methanogens use acetate to produce the methane. This is can only be done by 2 groups of archaea, which are the Methanocecina and the Methanotrix, formerly also known as Methanosaeta. So it's a really low diverse group, and they are also really sensitive to environmental changes, and they are also slow growers. which is interesting or can be problematic because usually most of the degradation products from the bacteria, from the first 3 groups, they end as acetate. So that's why this pathway is really important, although, yeah, there are really, there's a really low diversity within this group. So therefore, it's really good that there are the SAOBs present in the anaerobic digestion as well, which could form an alternative pathway with the hydrogenotrophic methanogens, because they can use hydrogen and CO2 to produce methane. It's also a more diverse group. And then there is a third group, and they are called the methylotrophic methanogens, and they use methylated compounds to produce methane. This group, though, accounts to the lowest amount of produced methane compared to the other ones. So mainly it's all methane is usually produced via the hydrogenotrophics, or the hydrogenotrophic methanogens, or the acetotrophic methanogens. So that's like a really quick description on how methane is produced. And as you've seen, it's quite a complex multi-step process. And this process is mainly done by bacteria and archaea, but it's also known that eukaryotes, which is the third domain of life, is also anaerobic, or can be found in anaerobic digestion. But there has been not that much research done on in this group, so there's lots is not known about them. So, but I want to highlight them anyways. And one part of eukaryotes are the anaerobic fungi. And what they are able to do is they can do mixed acid fermentation, and then they produce the products hydrogen, CO2, formate, and acetate, which could be used for the biogas production. What they can also do is they can effectively degrade fibers by fiber-degrading enzymes. So here, that's also would be a contribution to the anaerobic digestion process. It is known that they are present in manure digesters, but it's still unknown if they are actually metabolically active. So if they're actually alive in the digester, or if they are only introduced by the manure and then they die. So there's still some research to be done. There are also other eukaryotes, which are really interesting for anaerobic digestion, and they are called the protozoa. It's a highly diverse group, and they could also be highly relevant for anaerobic digestion because of 3 different reasons, which is also shown here on this picture. So first of all, they produce soluble organics, which can be used by the archaea and bacteria to produce methane. They are also able to produce hydrolytic enzymes, which helps in the degradation process as well. And there are also protozoa known to form like a really close collaboration with methanogens. So it's an endosymbiotic relationship. So that means that the methanogens live inside of the protozoa. And that's also how they could contribute to more methane production. But again, there's not a lot known yet. So because it's really important, as you've already seen, that multiple organisms collaborate with each other, so that methane production is actually possible. I wanted to highlight this collaboration a little bit more because it's so fundamental. And generally, you can speak of symbiosis, which is any type of a long-term biological interaction between organisms. So that's what also actually happening in anaerobic digestion. But it's also widespread in nature. It's not only exclusive for anaerobic digestion. Then we also have syntrophy, which is a special form of symbiosis. And it's basically a dependent interaction between 2 or more organisms where one partner provides a metabolic product that the other partners utilize. And that is really essential for the methane production and anaerobic digestion. And usually it means that, for example, that one organism produces hydrogen, whereas the other one uses this hydrogen. And they are both necessary, because if the hydrogen would accumulate because there's no one using this hydrogen, then the pathway from the other organism would stop at some point. One special interaction in anaerobic digestion is also the interspecies electron transfer, which basically describes that electrons are transferred from one bacteria to another. This can be done by intermediate electron shuttle through hydrogen or formate, which is also shown here at the picture D. And that is called the mediated species electron transfer. This is often really inefficient because of the high hydrogen pressure. But there is also the direct interspecies electron transfer, in which free electrons are actually being transferred without the reduced hydrogen or formate. And that can be done by different ways. So, for example, it can be done by conductive pili, which are like hair-like structures on bacteria. It can also be done through specialized bacterial cell structures, so like through proteins, for example. And they can also use conductive materials such as granular activated carbon to transport the electrons from one to another. And the advantage of this direct transfer is that it's actually really rapid, and it's a direct transfer, like the name already says it. And so there's a lot of potential here for improvement. So if we enhance the diet, that you can also have an improved anaerobic digestion process. Okay, if we're already talking about improvement, I also wanted to mention bioaugmentation at the end as well. Traditional approaches to improve the biogas production is often in pre-treatment of feedstocks, substrates, or the post-treatment of gas. But bioaugmentation is actually also a really nice possibility to improve the methane production. And bioaugmentation basically means that you introduce microorganisms which with desirable functions into anaerobic digestion. And by doing this, by introducing new microorganisms, you can, for example, have a faster startup of anaerobic digesters. You can increase the yield, so the methane production. You can also increase the speed, and you could have an increased robustness. Because the anaerobic digestion process is so diverse and there are so many microorganisms involved, you can target different groups within the anaerobic digestion with bioaugmentation. So, for example, you could introduce hydrolytic bacteria or acetogenic methanogens via bioaugmentations. And other possible strategies for improvement or for improving the biogas production could be to promote the direct electron transfer, which I already talked about, or you could also do maybe transplantation of digestate, which is also a form of bioaugmentation where a digestate from one digester is introduced to another digester. So yeah, this was my presentation. I hope you got like a little insight into microorganisms involved in anaerobic digestion. It's a really complex process, and if you're interested, please have a look at the roadmap, because there it's much more described into detail. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Svenja, and that's what I was going to say, that just go to the roadmap, download it, and go check in this section, because I've read it and it's very comprehensive and it's very well explained, as well as you did in your presentation, Svenja. So just for starting, I would like to ask you a question while we keep receiving the questions from the chat and both in YouTube and in Zoom. So what would you say is more important for the biogas production, for the anaerobic digestion process? Bacteria, archaea, fungi, protozoa?
I think you need them all. I mean, in the end, archaea are producing the methane, so they use the hydrogen, CO2, or acetate to produce the methane. So without them, you don't have any methane production. But then, on the other hand, you also need the bacteria who degrade the feedstock introduced in the anaerobic digestion, so that the archaea can actually use this for the production of methane. So I really wouldn't want to pick one group as my favorite.
I think so. I think so. So we have the first question from the public. It's this one. Are the microorganisms in the digester different in, for example, plants that are using wastewater or plants that are using manure or agricultural waste?
Yes, you can see differences in the microbial community between all these different sorts of digesters, but there are also microorganisms which you usually find in all of them.
Okay, so is there any like core microbiome or microorganisms that are common to, let's say, most of the digesters, or just every digester is super different from each other?
No, not super different. Also within the microbiogas project, we analyzed the core microbiome of all the digesters, and we also identified one as a possible syntrophic oxidizing, or SAOB, which is MB83, also known as Darwini bacterialis. So this one is usually found in all of them.
Okay, so regarding these bacteria, it was well studied. It's a new bacteria that you have discovered, because as I understand, it's present on all the reactors. So it maybe have been well studied, or it's part of this black box process that we were talking about before with Christian.
Sorry, my connection was a bit bad. Could you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah, this Darwini bacterialis bacteria that you have told us about, it's a very well-studied bacteria because it's present in all the reactors, or it's a bacteria that you have identified and it's part of this black box process that is the anaerobic digestion.
Yeah, so this one which was identified is like has play a major role in the anaerobic digestion.
Okay, so we're moving to the last question we have for the moment, and I will share my screen for the poll. But we have this question that it's: do you think that bioaugmentation can make a real impact on biogas production in terms of yield? And do you have any preliminary data on this from Micro4Biogas?
So in terms of increasing the biogas yield, using bioaugmentation is definitely a good option. So especially by introducing then hydrolytic bacteria, so they can increase the biogas yield, and that has also already been shown in lab experiments within the Microbiogas project. And we really think that it's a promising technology for the future to increase the yield.
Okay, thank you, Svenja. I will now share my screen for introducing the poll on your part, but please keep connected, and I will ask some more questions if there are any. Okay, so I'll start sharing my screen, and as I've been repeating during all the sorry, I've been having problems sharing my screen. So if you have the link of the poll, please just go there and start answering the questions labeled with a 3. I'll be sharing my screen in a minute. So if you have just connected, you can now, I will share my screen. Okay, it's already shared. And if you have just connected, you can scan this QR code, or just go to the link that is in the YouTube description or in the Zoom chat, or just write this link into the internet. So these questions are related to the Svenja talk, to microorganisms in anaerobic digestion, and you have to answer them now. And these are the questions that we'll be asking you to answer. Is what was your knowledge about the biogas microbiome before this talk? Did you already know some of the microbial processes within the anaerobic digestion? Did you know archaea before and the important role they play in the anaerobic digestion? And the last one is, do you think that insights via microbiome analysis can help to improve biogas production? So we will have approximately 3 minutes to answer this question. As I've been repeating, if you have to leave, please send the poll so we can count on your opinion. And Svenja, we have just a question related to this fourth one question. It's regarding microbiome analysis, and the question is, how can we study the microbiome? Which are the techniques that are most commonly applied to study microbiome?
Yeah, so these techniques are also really well described in the roadmap. I haven't really had the time to cover them in my presentation. So basically, there are like two major things we can do. So one is the qPCR methods, where we can quantify the bacteria or archaea, for example, which are present in the anaerobic digestion. So that already tells us a lot about what's already going on in anaerobic digestion. But then another really nice technique is NGS, so next generation sequencing. And that is actually a really nice technique because in the end, it gives you a whole list of all the different bacteria strains which are present in anaerobic digestion. And this information is really powerful to improve biogas production.
Okay, and these techniques is something that are used only in the frame of science, or for example, you as a company in Bioclear is something that you apply in a daily basis to real biogas plants.
Yeah, we do this with the microbiogas, but also we have customers or commercial projects within our companies where we use these techniques to help digestion operators or owners of digestion plants to see how their plants can be optimized, or example, if they're having trouble with their digesters, we are also using these techniques to really identify what the problem is. And then based on that, we can give recommendations what to do and how to improve the performance.
Okay, that's very interesting. So this is very related to bioaugmentation, right? It's something that usually works together, the microbiome analysis and the bioaugmentation, or can work separately. I mean, for the microbiome analysis, for sure, I think. But do you recommend, if you're planning to do a bioaugmentation, to join this effort with also microbiome analysis?
Yeah, I would say so, because based on these microbiome analysis, you really know what is in your digester, what are you lacking, and then we can really target that group that part of the digestion which is lacking, and then improve this by bioaugmentation techniques.
Okay, so that was all the questions. Svenja, thank you very much. I think that we already have the time to answer the poll too. So I will stop sharing my screen. And now we're moving towards the fourth talk. I think Mutaz is already sharing his screen. So the final talk will be given by Mutaz Ajami, an industrial engineer at Aras de los Olmos. This talk, we present the specific case of this town, Aras de los Olmos, one of the first towns in Spain, aiming to completely disconnect from the electric grid by using 100% renewable energies. So this is, for me at least, a very interesting topic. And I want to invite Mutaz to share his screen, which is already doing it. So just go ahead, Mutaz, with your talk. We can hear you, Mutaz. Maybe you're mute.
Okay, now?
Now.
Thank you, Adriel. So I'm going to talk about a special case, about the case of small town who wants to change things. So I would like to talk a little bit about how things happened in Aras and why we think about the project, and all kind of resuming what we wrote in the roadmap. So good morning, everyone. I'm excited to share with you the case of Aras de los Olmos. This presentation shows how a small town can use a renewable energy to improve the well-being of its neighbors and solve local challenges. Let's start learning about the town itself. So it's a small town in the mountain. It's belong to Valencia. And it has fewer than 400 residents, and most of the land of Aras de los Olmos, it's a forest. About 60% is forest, and the rest is farmland where people grow grapes, almonds, and cereals. Also, I would have a small talking about the attraction of the town. Aras de los Olmos is have a great nature, but also it's a perfect place to observe the sky. It's one of the best places of stargazing in Spain, and it has 4 astronomical observatories. The town is also famous with dinosaur fossils. They found the biggest one in Valencia in the municipality. Also, it has a rich history from Iberic, Romanian, and Arabic periods. There is a small museum that should be visited if you are in Aras. Also, it's a good place for doing some routes, being senderism or on bicycle. It's have a lot of bike routes that they are really wonderful for people who like to spend time on the nature. So let's now talk about. It's visible correctly, or
Yes, you are not in presentation in full screen, but we can see your screen.
Okay, I can fix that.
Yeah, now.
Okay, that's better. Okay, so let's move for the talking about the project, the real situation of Aras de los Olmos, why the idea of the project, what we are looking for. So actually, Aras de los Olmos it's peculiar because it have their own grid. Normally, grids that are owned by big companies, but in the case of Aras, they are owned by the hometown itself. And this is permit us to think about how we solve the real problem of quality of electricity in the town. So as I said before, we are in the mountain, we are in the end of the electricity grid. So this is make a lot of give us a lot of harsh weather, which become the electricity go off. And in 2017, we suffer after a snowstorm. We suffer 40 hours without electricity, without communication, and barely without potable water. And that make the local government think about a radical or real solution for the problem. For this, we thought about having generate our own energy. So the project was a solution of our real problem. So we think about what the available resources in the town. We have enough solar energy, as most of places of Spain. We have about 310 or 320 sunny days, and we have enough solar source so to produce our energy. Also, it's a really good place for wind energy. We have a private farm, a big private farm in the municipality. So we think about having our own wind energy. Also, we have a lot of waste, animal waste, and because there is the main economical activity in the town is animal farms. So we have a lot of waste. Also, as I said, we have 60% of the land is forest, and all this waste need to be treated carefully and in good way. And if it's treated well, it could be a solution for the energetic problem in the town. Another available source that we have kind of big level change between 2 points. We have a river in the side of the town that permit us to do a small homemade battery hydraulic installation to save the energy when we have more energy that we need and to use it when it's necessary. So the key factors of the project was kind of use all the available resources in the town and found a real and sustainable solution. Also, give the neighbors a kind of being in the mountain, having a business far away from the city is always complicated. So it will give people kind of a small benefit because we are aiming to reduce the price of energy in the town and kind of involve people in finding and to be part of the energy management. Also promoting the rural life. We are sure that after the project is done, more people will be attracted to stay at the town. So this is a small diagram that shows that how the whole project will be. It's based, as I said, in 4 renewable energy. The solar one is the main one with about 700 kilowatts.
Recording in progress.
And there is another smaller one with the R will be the wind and biogas and hydraulic energy. All together will do a hybrid system that give the town 100% of the energy that it needs during all the days of the year and during all the hours of the day. Kind of, we will be independent of the national grid. We started the first step of the project. It's already done. In last summer and this year we do the project of solar plant. It is about 1,000 bifacial panels and it's moved in single axis, which give us an extra 25% of energy than traditional solar plant. And it's the main purpose of having the movement that to have more hours of the day to produce solar energy during more hours of the day, so we don't need to get an extra energy from the grid. Also, we are now doing all the document and the authorization that we need to do the biogas plant. So as the biogas plant is really important, necessary, because as we all know that wind and solar energy is not controllable, that we don't really know what will be sunny or not, or if it will be windy or not. So we need kind of stable resource of energy that give the town the needed energy when it's necessary. For that, the biogas plant will be kind of the not the main one, but it's the most important one because it will give us the needed energy during the 24 hours of the day. Also, it will be, as I said before, it will be a great step to solve the problem of waste. So let's talk a little bit now about what Aras de los Olmos do in the project. Why a small municipality involved in an investigation project? Actually, we was pleased to be part of this project, and we kind of the main paper or the main thing to do in this project was to test or validate the laboratory result in a large scale. The first thought was to validate the result in the real plant, but as it's complicated to get the plant built on time, so we go to plan B and we built two smaller digesters. So as you see in the picture, there is two semi-industrial digester that we use one as a control and the second one to study all the laboratory results that we had. Sorry, I catch a cold and so we are almost we are already now testing the result of the laboratory. We use one of these two digesters as a control. We use bio-augmentation and transplantation in the second one and compare the results to validate the result that they had in laboratories. And we are aiming that this result would be used in an industrial scale when we have the real plant, hopefully next year. And it will help us a lot to produce more energy, to process more waste, and to have kind of to be useful for circular economy in the town. And thank you a lot. I invite you all to visit Aras when you can, and I'm happy to answer all the questions that people have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mutaz. I would also love to invite people to go to Aras de los Olmos. I've been there and it's an incredible town. So just go, don't think so much and go visit them because they are so very nice people. And also go read their chapter in the roadmap because it's also very interesting, and everything that Mutaz explained here in the presentation, it's also expanded in the roadmap. So Mutaz, now we'll change a little bit the dynamics of the session because I will start asking you to answer the poll. So we have time to analyze the results, and then Manel, which is the head of the project of Micro4Biogas, will explain some conclusions about the poll, and then we'll start the Q&A with you, Mutaz. So we are receiving lots of questions and lots of interest, and just give me a minute so I can share my screen so you can start answering the questions that we've prepared about this last talk. And I just want also to add that we're streaming this event in YouTube, and it will be available online afterwards, so you can come again and check all the talks, all the discussion, all the Q&A. So in this case, as you know already, you can scan the QR code to enter the poll, or you can just click on the links that we've been sharing on chat. And I will ask you to send the form, send the poll after you answer these questions, so we have time to analyze the data. So the questions are, which factor you think is the main reason for us, the Los Olmos, to switch to renewable energy? What do you believe is the biggest obstacle to expanding renewable energy in rural areas? Which benefit of a biogas plant do you find most appealing? what are your biggest concerns or doubts about using a mix of solar, wind, and biogas for long-term energy needs? How can education and community involvement help build support for renewable energy efforts? And the last one is, if you could suggest one new idea to strengthen Aras de los Olmos renewable energy strategy, what would it be? So I will let you 5 minutes to answer these questions, but in the meantime, I will use this time to ask Mutaz some of the questions that you've been sending. And we have 2 or 3 questions in this sense. I think it's arising some interest in the audience. And it is the question is, how do you think, Mutaz, the people of Aras de los Olmos generally feel about the project, but more specifically about building the biogas plant in the town? Have you seen a lot of support or resistance up to this point? What do you think has been the greatest challenge to convince the local population?
Actually, it's a great question because in the beginning, when we talk about biogas plant, people thought that it would be really smelly, and people thought about that it would be problematic. So what we do that we organized a visit for a real biogas plant in Catalonia. And we get a small bus and we go there with many neighbors, and they saw that it's really not smell much more than any animal farm. And this is really give the project more acceptation, that people, they just saw it's a great project. There is not really not as harmful as that people think. It's not. It's like if everything done well, it's not really not smell bad. It's not a lot of trucks will come to the town, because it's kind of, they thought that it will every morning we will receive about 20 or 30 trucks a day, and which with the real number we will receive about 2 to 3 trucks a week, which is kind of the normal movement that any farm of animals receive, at least one, and we have about 20 animal farms in the town. So kind of, I think it will be nice that towns, our places, that think about doing a biogas plant to do the same. Let people go to a real plant and see how it's work, and just discover by themselves that it's not really what people think about it.
Okay, it's very interesting how communication is very important also to make these kind of projects, because I think, and this is my opinion, that people are always afraid of what they don't know, and it's our labor it's our work to show them that this is biogas is a possibility, and it has many advantages. So good work for you. Congratulations for all the town council and all the people involved in the program, because it's a very interesting initiative. I was very surprised to know that you actually hire a bus and go to another town. This is, I think, a super good idea. So regarding this, there's another very interesting question, and it's, if you have the support from the institutions, I mean, the local, the national, the regional, or even the European institution, to fulfill your objective of disconnect from the national grid?
Let's talk about, there is a good acceptation in general for the project, but for real work, it's being treated as a commercial project. So, for example, to do the solar plant, we had to work to get the authorization about 4 years, and we are now waiting for the last one to make it can produce energy. It's done, but not producing energy yet, because we are waiting for a document that permits us to do it. So it was treated like any another project. It was treated like a mega project, knowing that it's really small. And this is kind of the main obstacle, that it's really complicated when we are just a small entity. We don't have really big, we have just two engineering working in the hometown, and this is really being treated as a big company. It's giving us much more trouble. The same thing happened with the biogas plant. We was waiting that it will be done 2 years ago, and it would be nice that the project would be validated in a real industrial scale plant, but it wasn't possible.
Okay, thank you, Mutaz. We will continue the Q&A, so keep connected. But I would like to close the poll now. So if you are answering the questions, please answer them. And everyone, please just send the form so we can analyze the data for the last talk, for the conclusions that will be done by Dr. Manel Porcar. So I will stop sharing my screen, and we can continue, Mutaz, with the questions, because we are receiving many questions. They are very interesting, as well as your answers. So based on your experience, because you have already implemented so renewable sources like the solar panels in the town, which renewable energy is more generally accepted by the citizens or by the institutions, or by whatever who has the power to decide in your plans? I mean, the solar panels, the wind energy, the biogas.
In general, the solar panels is really most known, and for this reason, it's more acceptable for people, because they have it. A lot of people, they have it by themselves, and it's kind of well known. Wind energy is also acceptable, but in most cases, they think that it's not making the mountain is not as perfect as was before. But in general, it's you can generate much more energy in a reduced area. So it's a good solution for our town, but maybe in some places is rejected because they just prefer that things stay as it was before.
Okay, that's very interesting, because there are a question just regarding this, what you say, the acceptance of this kind of projects in other towns, and what do you think about it? The question is that, do you think the Aras de los Olmos initiative is something that could be scaled up to larger towns? What would be the first steps to achieve this?
Actually, this is the main idea of the project, kind of being a real scale laboratory of having your own energy. Kind of, we have some troubles because of we are far away from the main grid, and there is a lot of places have the same problem. Even there is could be scalable for industrial scale. There is kind of, you need also to have always a scale area next to the grid because of cost of energy and transportation of energy. And if this project work well, I think you can just have some solar energy and combine it with another energy and just be independent. Don't really be limited by the distance of the grid. The grid is kind of great in the cities, that's everywhere, but it's not the same thing in rural area. There is a lot of rural area out of the range of grid. So I think the main idea is to scale our experience to another places.
Okay, and there is another question regarding this, because yes, as you were saying, Mutaz, you are a rural area, a rural town for sure, and you have plenty of farms. So just like people is wondering, because maybe in your town, in Aras de los Olmos, people are used to the smells from the farms, So the acceptance of the biogas plant may be better because of that, because you're already used to. What do you think this kind of plant can, or what would be the perception of constructing this kind of biogas plant in another, let's say, more in another areas like city or bigger towns? Would you think that the acceptance can be the same, or we have to work more on communication?
I think it should be the same, because the regulation make it should be 1 kilometer at least far away from any nucleation of houses. So it will be far enough that smell shouldn't be a problem. And kind of all places, all cities, all towns have installation of treatment of water from the depuration of water. So this is kind of, it's more smelly actually than a biogas plant. So we are really used to it, but we just don't know what the name of everything. So I think with the regulation, it's really complicated and very respectful with the environment. I think it should be more than enough to guarantee that people will not have worse air quality because of biogas plants.
Okay, thank you, Mutaz. We are just heading to the last question. So if you have a question to do, it's just now or never. So one of the last questions is that this person says that if I recall correctly, the leftover digestate from anaerobic digestion processes can be used as fertilizer. So what are your plans about this? Are you using this, or are you planning to use these sludge, these leftover sludge as a fertilizer for your farms?
For sure, it was kind of the planning of circular economy, that we're getting waste from farmers and back them as a give it back to them after treatment, so they use it in their farms. And this is kind of, even water they should be used in the beginning and in the end, and all the process is kind of use every single waste, treated waste in benefit of people of the town.
Okay, Mutaz, that was our last question. So thank you very much for your nice talk and for your nice answers. I think your experience with this project is of incredible high value for everyone connected here. So thank you, Mutaz.
Thank you very much.
And now we're moving to the results and conclusions section. To present the conclusions of this workshop, I would like to hand the floor over Manel Porcar, the head of Biotechnology and Synthetic Biology Research Group located at the Institute for Integrative Systems Biology. And he's also the coordinator of the Micro for Biogas project. So Manel, just go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Adriel. So I think that we have been spending a very nice couple of hours roughly with this subject, and I would like to very shortly make a summary of what we have been talking here, our 4 great speakers, and then to make a summary as well of the results of the poll, that I think that they are quite curious. So we have had, as I mentioned, 4 different speakers, and I think that the introduction made by Christian was very interesting. So basically what he said is that microorganisms are a black box, in the sense that biogas is produced, but it is not always clear what are the key processes or key microorganisms that are responsible of this process, particularly by the people that are running the facilities. And in order to shed light on this dark black box, the Anaerobic Microverse, this black box, this book, sorry, has been prepared in the frame of this project. And I think it's a very, very nice occasion for you to take a look at that. As Christian mentioned, it's freely available. So I think that you have the link in the chat. But anyhow, you can also access through the website of the Micro for Biogas project. So basically, you have there everything you want to know about biogas, particularly in Europe. The second speaker has been Pascal Otto, and basically he has been dealing with the European ecosystem. And there's like two main implications of this European framework. One is regulation, and I think that he has been describing quite well the key players and who is who and what are the rules about biogas production in Europe. And this is linked to a second very interesting issue, which is the challenges, because there are a lot of opportunities in biogas production in Europe, particularly now with the geostrategic issues that we are facing with the war in Ukraine, with the shortage of energetic independence here in Europe, etc. So if Pascal has been focusing on the organizational and people as key players or stakeholders, Svenja, the third speaker, has been focusing on microbial stakeholders. So she has been describing very nicely the different steps that lead towards biogas production. And maybe to the surprise of some of you, not only microorganisms are involved, but even eukaryotes. And they are very interesting processes like direct line transfer that can happen. So basically, microbial facilities or biogas facilities are like a soup of microorganisms. As she was mentioning, there is more microorganisms in 1 gram of substrate producing biogas than the number of humans in all the planet. So that's a huge number, of course. And at the same time, this holds great promise, not only for the production of biogas as we know it today, but in a process called bioaugmentation. So if we can select those microorganisms that are the best ones to produce biogas, we can use it in this process called bioaugmentation to further foster the production of biogas. And I think that this workshop has been nicely closed by Mutaz, because he has been describing a case study, a very interesting case study, and I like particularly the title, a public initiative, in the frame of which the municipality of Aras de los Olmos is going to become independent from an energetic point of view. But I would like to add to this title a public initiative, a social initiative as well, because this is deduced by one of the answers to the questions that you have addressed to Mutaz. The people of the village agree in this very brave, I think, initiative from the city hall that are going to use biogas, among others, renewable resources, to make them, energetically speaking, independent. So this is like a very short overview of the talk that we have had here. And also in a very, very short way, I would like to summarize the results of the survey. So first of all, the survey has been answered by people from different countries, including Germany, particularly the main represented country, but also the Netherlands, Belgium, and Spain. And there was one question about the relationship with the biogas sector, and basically we have everything. So some people belong to the research community, some other students, some are working in biogas facilities. Referring to the level of education, the average is quite high because we have like 2/3, roughly speaking, that have university degrees, and other technical degrees correspond to more or less 1/3 of the respondents. Another question, what are your main interests in the biogas sector? Well, there's a nice biodiversity, let's say, of answers here, but I think that the two main ones are renewable energies and microbiology and biogas microbiology as well. So who should read the Micro for Biogas roadmap? A lot of answers here as well, but most of them address the technical staff and also policymakers. Then there's some question whether people detected some gaps, and basically the answer is no. Whether they think that the microbiome is important, 100% said yes, it is important. That bioaugmentation is a promising technology, again, majority saying yes, it is. And then what aspects would you take into account when considering acquiring a biofermentation kit for anaerobic digesting plant? Not very surprisingly, the first one is the price, of course. And then there is just a list of all the other ones that I'm not going to read here because it's very long. Which stakeholders is the most important for the biogas plant operator? So substrate providers are the most important for roughly 50% of the respondents, with other aspects being the rest of the percentage of the answers. And then I am going to skip some questions to go to the end, which is the most important political instrument for the biogas industry in the EU. So again, quite a diversity, but RED 1 and RED 2 would be the most important ones, along with the Paris Agreement, and then there are other answers. What is the knowledge about the biogas microbiome before this talk? A lot of the respondents, like 2/3, are quite aware of the biogas sector, which is expected. And again, did you know already the microbial processes behind anaerobic digestion? Like more than 80% responded positively, so they did know. The same with archaea, and the same with microbiome analysis. So the people that are answering the surveys had a good technical background. Again, on what do you believe is the biggest obstacle to expand renewable energy in rural areas? So these issues with connecting with the grid and bureaucracy. It's funny because they are like two very different obstacles. One is a very technical one, just connecting with the grid, and the other, we know very well, particularly people from Aras de los Olmos, that bureaucracy can be a real killer sometimes. And then we are approaching the end of the poll. Which benefit of a biogas plant do you find most appealing? Improving waste management. I fully agree with that. 50% of the respondents say this. And just to finalize, there is a list of short answers, short suggestions that come from the respondents. I would like to thank everybody very much for participating in this. Not only the ones that have responded to this poll online, but the ones that are going to be able to respond later. And just to sum up, there is one last question in which it was asked, if you could suggest one new idea to strengthen Aras de los Olmos renewable energy strategy, what would it be? So I will keep one of the respondents who answered, I think you are doing a great job. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Manel, for all these nice conclusions from this work. And that's all from our part. This is the end of the webinar called the Anaerobic Microverse, in which we've been presenting some of the chapters of the Micro for Biogas roadmap. You'll have this webinar uploaded to YouTube, so you can access it whenever you want through the Micro for Biogas YouTube channel. And thank you very much for joining us today and for your answers to the poll. They help us improving our work in Micro for Biogas. And I just hope that you enjoy our roadmap. So bye, everybody. Thank you.